Hey everybody, and welcome to Alan's Bonsai. Today I'm going to continue taking Shohin Shillings out of training pots and putting them into bonsai pots. So this is the next subject, and it's pretty busy up here, a lot of different growth, so many different ways we could go with this tree. However, there's some rules of bonsai that so we know we can chop some things off, and that is these bottom branches right here, all coming out of this point right here. All of that can be cut away. Get rid of the scissors, because you want your trunk to be clear at least a third of the way up typically. Now there are certain times when you may have branches below that, and I think I'm also going to take this guy off. Now conceivably we could cut the whole plant off to right there, and then cut this guy to here and have boop boop boop, and that would make a tree. But I'm not going to do that because I want this one to be a little more graceful, a little more feminine, a little taller, a little more open. And that's the beauty of bonsai, is you get to choose. If you have material, especially since I grow this myself from cuttings, you have the choice to do what you want. So this guy is going to come off. I'm going to spin him around so I can get to it. And then we have the decision, and I'm looking at this as the front. So we have a nice curve here on the trunk. The nabari is decent, and I think as we remove some of the soil as we're repotting it, we'll probably get exposed roots that make the nabari even nicer. So this is going to be the front. And then what do we do with the rest of the top? There's a whole bunch of stuff we could do. We could conceivably bring it all the way up to here, bend this a little more like that, and create a tree out of the whole thing, quote unquote. But I don't think I'm going to do that. If you watch my videos, I like to cut stuff back. And who knows, I may do another video, because I've got a lot of these, where I do just use the whole thing. But I've been studying this thing, and what I'm looking at is this as the first main branch, and removing all the rest of this. And then using this leader right here as the top. So I'm going to cut this away to make it easier to visualize. So this is going to be the top up in here. And all this is going to go. So that's just a simple matter of taking my concave cutters and making it go. So, I call this stage the skeletonization. So we're taking, most of the time when we do this stage, we take 60, 70, maybe 80 or 90% of the tree off. And then you regrow, and as it regrows, then you start creating your ramification and your density of your foliage pads. So I'm going to switch to my scissors now. And what I'm looking at, because we have movement here, this is pretty long and thin, but that's okay because that's the kind of tree we're going to make here. A more feminine, graceful tree. I'm going to take it to right there. So now we have some movement coming to the right, to the left, to the right. This first main branch needs to be reduced, because if you left this branch like this and you started pinching out here, you're really never going to get the ramification that you want. So you get the ramification by cutting it back like that, and then as a new growth comes out from here, you can create the ramification that you want. This could be a back branch, but because it's shooting to this side, I'm going to take it to right there, because this little tiny bit right here is actually going to the back. And then I'm going to take that one little leaf off. This would be the next main branch. And we've got some other little back branches. So I'm also going to take this one off. And we have two leaders. We have this one or this one, and I want this one, so we're going to take him off too. So that went from a tree with quite a bit of foliage to the skeletonization. But if we look at the structure of this tree, it's going to be a pretty nice tree. And now it's just a matter of putting it into a bonsai pot. And I've chosen this pot here, which is a very cool polka dot glaze. It's already been prepared. So I'm going to put it into the pot. I'm going to try to drag the soil over here. It's very early in the morning and now I'm getting sunlight. And I'm not sure how that's going to affect the video. I don't know if you can see it, but the shadows are starting to disappear as the sun keeps rising in the sky. So the potting process is the same that I showed you in the last video, so I don't think I really need to record the potting process because it's basically the same thing. You remove the soil out of this guy, take it out of the training pot, then add a little bit of soil to the bottom of this pot, and then put your tree into the other pot and then fill it with bonsai soil versus the training mix, which is more of just a landscape mix. So I'm going to do that and then just show you the finished product because it's the same process for everything. So do we need to repeat it over and over and over again? My decision on that is no. And here is the repotted tree, and it's got very little foliage, but now we're looking at a tree that's probably going to be, I think I put it on top of the old tray, so I'm going to bring it down. It may end up being even up here, and of course these will all be out here. This main branch will be out here, but it will be more of a gentle feminine kind of tree versus a massive masculine tree with a huge trunk. And like I said in the very beginning, we could have taken that one tiny little branch here, chopped everything off, and turned it into a massive tree, in quotes, because the tree itself would have only been about 2 inches high, 3 inches high. And I have some mame trees that are that tall, and I will be showing you those in the next videos here and now. But now, because of the timing, I need to do what I'm doing with these shillings within the next 2, 3, 4 days, because today's the 1st of February and they cannot come out of dormancy, or else if you cut too much of the roots, they can suffer tremendously and even die. So we don't want that. So that's number one. Here's the second tree, and I decided just bring it into the sun. Hopefully the effect of the shadows and stuff will not be that big of a deal. Who knows, maybe it's better if they're in the sun. So this is also an interesting tree. It's the training pot, in quotes. Used to be a tomato container, tomato juice, and like the other one in the other video, it's going to have this large hump which will make the roots have a hollow, but that wasn't that big of a deal on the first one. So if we bring this guy around, well, first of all, let's do what we know needs to come off, and that is this little guy right here. And it's got this growth right here, which we could chop it to there, make this the first main branch, and the tree would only be that high. That's a possibility, but I do not want to do that because well, let's take that off since I'm not going to do that. And probably the hardest thing for beginners is to make those decisions. Most beginners myself included when I was a beginner, would never chop this entire tree off just to leave this little stumpy thing. However, that can make a very cool tree. And I use that technique on other trees, and I will show you that in subsequent videos. But anyway, right now we're going to chop that away. And we have, go back to my scissors, we have some weird little branches here that can come off. So now we have, I'm going to take this one off here too. Get a better view of what we're going, what we're doing. So we have a very interesting tree now with movement, 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 movement. Or this could be the front. I need to take this way, still the same kind of movement. If we make this as the front, this could conceivably be the first main branch. Even though it's basically coming from in front, you could wire it to be that way. And then the second main branch would be this one here, which is shooting straight back, if this is the front. So I like that as the front. This will make a decent front too. The Nabari on this tree is very nice. So you can't probably see it. There we go. Hopefully we can see that like that. So on both sides it's pretty nice. So I still think I'm going to use this as the front, like that. And then I could still use this as the first main branch. You know, in a perfect world it would be coming right out here where the branch bends, but we can wire that down and put the pad into place to make it look like it's coming there. So it doesn't have to come from the place where it would be perfect. You can manipulate it to come down into there. And this is a pretty weak branch, so it's going to need to be promoted. Allow it to really grow. So I'm not even going to cut it back. I'm going to let it grow and thicken. This second main branch is quite thick, so we're going to cut it to right there, and we're going to cut this way back. And then since I love the motion here, you know, conceivably we could take this tree up like this on this one, but I don't like that either. So I think I'll use my concave cutters for that and cut it off. And you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the rest of this guy off too. But I'm going to leave that one little tiny leaf that is actually pointing to the back as a back branch. So I'm going to leave a stub and then develop this as a back branch. And now there's nothing up here, but shillings will pop all over the trunk. So I'm going to take this guy to about like that. And once again, pretty drastic. I know I have done some drastic things with this, but this skeletonization process, you know, I'm finding that my tripod is not a perfect spot. So let's try to do, oops, wrong way. Let's try to do it like that. But there you go. Now this guy could use a little wire, but right now I'm going to leave it because it really needs to thicken. And whenever you wire a branch down, it will lose vigor. And this little guy too can end up being wired. Now this branch here, I will continually pinch that until this guy is thicker than this guy. This is a little too heavy really, and I could actually take it, you know, to way down into like here. And there's a little tiny bud that you may not be able to see, but that will sprout out, and then you build your pad and you won't have this thick branch. But for now, I'm going to leave it. And the potting process is the same. Remove the plant from the soil, take off most of that ambient landscape mix. I've already got the pot prepared, and so I will show you the finished product in just a sec. So here is the tree potted I chose a white glazed pot. It's just your basic, I think it's Japanese. And it's going to be a nice tree. It needs a lot of flushing out now, but I water it in almost immediately, and then when I begin to see new growth, which will be probably a few more weeks, might be shorter than that, then I'll give it some fertilizer, a little bit of fertilizer. My philosophy on fertilizer is I like to give little bits more often than just a large dollop less often. So, and once again, this guy needs to be wired. So you're just doing that. And this angle here could possibly be accentuated more, angled like that, and then angle this like that. But right now I'm just going to let him respond with new growth. And it's another interesting tree. I love shillings because they just make great nabari. They have nice movement. You can, if the season is correct, do some pretty drastic pruning on them. And they make just really, really nice trees. So thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you'd like to see more of the same. And I think that's about it. So thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. And oh, and leave a comment. I keep forgetting. If you like what I'm doing, if you have some constructive criticism, if there's something else that you need to know or want to know about what I do, how I do, please leave me a comment. I read all the comments because I've had very few already. But hey, just starting. So thank you so much. I really appreciate everyone that watches my videos. So thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video, which will probably be 2 more of these guys.